This is Michael Sumitra, the Solutions Marketing Manager with Adtran. I'll be leading off just with a bit of information about who Adtran is, as well as what we really see are the market trends around voice over IP. And I need to compliment Laurie on saying it's the best VoIP switch ever. We're definitely glad that we have one of the best VoIP switches in the market, and it's a portfolio of switches that we have, and we'd like to talk to you about that. We'll also give you a few reasons why you need a specialized switch that deals with voice over IP, what really are the issues that we encounter with delivering voice over an IP network, and how do you what are the methods to deal with it. A few of the features that we have in our products that outline how we are helping you solve those problems, and provide you some of the key success factors, what we see as the success factors in with a voice over IP implementation with respect to the LAN. So without much ado, let me go to just a quick overview about Adtran. We are a telecommunications company serving both the major service providers. So we build and supply and install telecommunications equipment for wired carriers, for the cable MSOs, for major telecom operators right around the world. We are based in Huntsville, Alabama, but we have offices in multiple locations in the US, in Europe, and in Asia. I want to focus on a few real key things that kind of outline what makes Adtran, what's unique about Adtran. Really, we are an R&D company, and we invest a lot in R&D. We invest over 21% of our revenues in R&D, and that's borne out in that we actually have 60% more patents per dollar than the industry average. A lot of the technology that you will see in our products is patented technology, and that's because we are an R&D company, and we try to do our very best to build a product which is reliable, which is future-proof, and really it meets a customer's need. We are a very stable company. We have we are listed on the NASDAQ, and we have about a little over $300 million in unrestricted cash and marketable securities. That being the case, what's our heritage with respect to the enterprise market, with respect to LAN, with respect to how business customers delivering networking equipment to business customers. As you can see, we are an industry leader in a number of categories, whether that's in delivering cloud Wi-Fi, IP business gateways. We are the #1 in North America, #2 in terms of branch office routers, and we are #1 in SIP trunking and voice over IP access equipment in North America. So we have a great heritage of building and delivering solutions for business customers, small or medium or large enterprise customers, and we have a heritage of understanding voice in respect to whether that was being delivered over legacy TDM kind of networks or more IP and now cloud-based networks. A quick look at just the voice over IP market itself. This is a very big market, and a majority of it, as many of you would know, is the residential market itself. Even though that's about 60% of the market, that's slowly going down as the business voice market continues to grow. And this is expected to grow, as the stats show, that it's going to hit about a little over 80 billion by 2020. So it's a very, very large market, and it's still a growing market. Just looking down at just the business VoIP market aspect of it, which is really the SIP trunking market that's continuing to grow as businesses are deploying IP PBXs, or whether they're going switching over completely to voice over IP from their old legacy key systems or KDM systems. But hosted voice and UC, that is definitely hitting mainstream. Earlier it was a growing market, now it's the majority of the market as more and more end users are looking at how hosted voice provide the complete hosted voice over IP solution. That's really gone mainstream now. So that is expected to grow, well, a little over 8% by 2020. The other market which is growing is managed IP PBX. This is really a trend of where from selling individual boxes into an enterprise, the trend now is towards more of a cloud-based infrastructure as a service solution, where more and more providers are looking at how they can look at the cloud, moving applications into the cloud, moving voice over IP as an application into the cloud and offer it in a recurring revenue manner. So that is definitely going to be growing a lot more. So that this being the case, again, to bring it back, voice over IP is still a growing market. And it will continue to grow going into 2020. So there's plenty of business to be had. Voice over IP is not nothing new. It has been there for, well, I guess it's a little over 15 years now, and it's a mature market. But there are still challenges to delivering voice on an IP network. So with that, I'm going to introduce you Samir Kakkar, the product manager. He's a specialist on voice over IP and on enterprise switches. So Samir, so let me kick off by asking you the question. So why is voice different or unique from any other application on an IP network?
Michael, thank you for the question. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody on the call. Pleasure to be here on the call with you. And Michael, you gave me the toughest question to answer, but it's a question I've been asked before. So the way to answer that question is, why is voice different from any other application on a typical network today, is to peel back and see what we are trying to do with voice in general. So voice is different from the other applications on a typical LAN. If you think about the email traffic you do with the computers, if you think about the web browsing that you do, or the YouTube videos you watch, if you think in terms of different applications, you start to see that voice is different in three main areas. Number one, voice is real time. What I mean by real time is that voice communication has to go through at the same time without any appreciable delay in it. Unlike an email, if I send you an email and you get the email 2 seconds late, you don't seem to care. But if you get that, if I call you and there's a 2-second delay in our conversation, that will make our conversation very unpractical. So first of all, voice is real time. The second all is that voice traffic doesn't have any retransmission built into it. This is a key. This is probably the tech geek in me coming out, but the takeaway I want to have for people on this call is that unlike the email or unlike some other applications which have a retransmission built into it, like the TCP traffic, voice is sent as a UDP traffic. What it means is, if I send you my voice, if I'm talking on the phone with you and my voice is going to you, if those packets are dropped, nobody's going to retransmit those packets. There's no guarantee of the voice packets which are coming out of from my phone system to your phone system to ever reach you. There's no retransmission built in. So there's no so that's one concern with voice or being different is. The third thing with voice being different from any other network traffic is you have something else to compare it with. What I mean by that is email and YouTube browsing or web browsing is a new application that you and all have been using for the last 20-30 years, but voice technology has been around, or digital voice or analog voice has been around for a good 100 years. So people have expectations about what they expect their phone to do when they go off work, how much longer before they can dial a number, when they say something, how long it should take for the other party to receive what they're saying, and the overall quality or the fidelity of the voice, they have expectations. So because of those three things, I think the real-time nature, the non-guarantee nature, and it's something you compared with was very different from other applications on the network.
So Samir, just looking at the challenges of delivering voice over IP on the LAN. So could you expand on these challenges that you've listed out?
Yeah, so I think we touched upon some earlier when I was saying that voice is not guaranteed to travel across the network because it's just the technology which is being used to make that happen. But some of the challenges in a typical LAN network which come up is that LAN network traffic is typically bursty. What I mean by that is that you got different users on a corporate LAN or on a small business LAN doing different things with the network. So somebody may be downloading a big file. The network admin may be pushing the antivirus upgrade to all the PCs, or somebody is going on a paging and trying to page all the users at the same time, or somebody is streaming video or music through the network. So whenever you have a lot of traffic or different kinds of traffic going on the network, it affects the other traffic. And voice is one of those applications which get affected the most. Number one. Number two is the challenge is that the denial of service. Whether intentional or unintentional, back to what I was saying about somebody trying to intentionally stream music over the network, or unintentionally the network admin has pushed a OS upgrade to all the PCs, causes a contention for shared resources over the network. And voice is one of those applications which gets hit the hardest whenever there's a contention. And third, I can think about is voice is very sensitive to any kind of network outage. For example, if back to the email example, if you send me an email and I get the email in 2 seconds or maybe 3 minutes, I won't be that upset when the network is down, as an example. But when you and I are talking and the network goes down for 10 seconds, forget 3 minutes, you will notice and you will complain. So those are some of the challenges in making sure the voice, which is a real-time application, can live within the constraints of the LAN, knowing that the LAN will have multiple traffic going on at the same time. So those are some of the challenges, and things like spanning tree loops come up, and network admins, or maybe not network admins, move the cables around, not realizing that it can cause loops in the network, and then our switches are smart enough to correct themselves from those network loops, but it takes time, and during the time, your voice traffic will suffer. So those are the kind of things to keep in mind about the challenges which come up.
So that being the case, you and I talked about this quite a bit, Samir, and we boiled it down to what should be the top 3 LAN switch considerations for VoIP. So could you expand on that? Yeah,
definitely. So I think you must have seen the blog articles from me for people on the call, or seen some past publications from Adtran, where we have given you multiple reasons why, or the things that you should look for in a LAN switch when you're thinking about voice over IP. And you may have heard of feature names being dropped in, or protocols being talked about, or all the technical stuff that we engineers like to bring to the table. But if you peel back the onion, or if you actually don't peel back the onion, if you think about the problem in a broader scope, there are 3 main areas to focus on. One is the deployment and management, and that's where the hard and soft cost of putting a network comes together. It could be how long does it take for you to upgrade the network to go to voice over IP, who manages the network, how is the cable plant set up, and what are the shared resources on the network. Those things come up, and from a deployment and management perspective, those are actual things to think about. The second is the voice fidelity, so which is things like the quality of service for the voice packets on the network, and how good those voice packets are. And the third is, of course, you're talking about the network uptime, which is a very big thing I want to talk to you about. But from a network voice fidelity perspective, things that people have talked about in the network, and you may have network geeks talked about, latency, packet loss, or jitter. These are the kind of network concerns that we network engineers have, and they come up in your network in many, many ways. Let me give an example of what happens when you have latency on your network. So for example, if a packet is traveling from my phone to your phone, or from my IP phone to your IP phone, it goes through multiple hops. So first of all, my speech is digitized into voice. It becomes a packet. The packet goes to my switch. From my switch, it goes to the router. From the router, it goes to the network. From the network, back to your switch, back to your phone. So delay is expected in this path. But what is not expected is a lot of delay. So the example of the problem will be, you and I are talking on the phone and we talk over each other. If you've ever noticed that when two people are talking to each other and one is jumping into the conversation even before the other person is finished, or you think the other person is finished but the other person is actually stringing together the next sentence, and you start talking in the middle of it, that's called, some people call it talking over syndrome, or it happens a lot. That's a classic example of your network not being designed right. So that's a classic example of voice fidelity not being done in the network right. So that's the example of where somebody has not figured out the delay parameters of their switches, and that's causing this talking over syndrome. So voice fidelity is a big issue. And then the other thing which comes in voice fidelity is that you have packet loss. In case of congestion, the switches are designed to drop packets, and if a packet loss is happening, it will manifest in the network as you can only hear every third word or every fifth word of somebody else. So if you're talking to somebody and you can hear every third or every fifth word they're saying, it's probably because of packet loss. And those packet loss are happening because of your network voice fidelity not being designed right. So those are some things which to keep in mind from a voice fidelity perspective. I think the big reason, or one of the other big factors we talk about, was the network uptime. So if you forget deployment and management for a second, if you forget voice fidelity for a second, network downtime is a big issue for any network admin. But if the network is also carrying voice, you better have your pager or your cell phone with you all the time, because people have no patience when their voice network goes down. Whether you're a small business customer, whether you're a large enterprise customer, you can probably tolerate if your email traffic is suspended for about 30 minutes, or if you can't reach a website for about 20 minutes. But if you can't reach your customers or your colleagues over the phone, that is the bad signal goes up. So and network downtime is a big issue. I think the stat which we have pulled up here is that the failure of a switch has much greater consequences than the failure of a server or an application. This is not a quote from Adtran. This is actually from a large research firm, IHS, and they did a survey in actually sometime earlier this year, and that's what they found out. It's a huge cost. So for those of us who may be inclined to go to a Best Buy or to buy something which is not a business class switch and put it in a business setting and expect great things from that, we are not being wise about it. It's what you pay for is what you get. So focus on the network uptime, and there are ways to manage it, and we'll talk about that in this session some more. But I guess this last slide or this slide hits the three things I brought to you earlier about focus on the voice fidelity, which is making sure the voice is sent and heard in the right way. And then the network uptime, and the third is, of course, how quickly you can deploy and manage a network. I got some good slides to talk about each one of these in some more detail.
Correct. So just to summarize what Samir has been saying, the reason why we call our switches as the best VoIP switch period is we have focused on these very three key aspects, which is to ensure that we are able to deliver voice fidelity with, so we've built voice-aware features into our switches. We've also built a lot of software features that ensure faster deployment and management, easier management, whether you're just offering it so that the customer themselves can manage it within their network, or you have a managed services offering and you need to manage everything in the LAN. We have features that are built for that. And also our switches are designed to guarantee maximum uptime. So now, Samir, I'll let you go into each quickly at a high level, some of the features that we talked about, starting with the voice fidelity.
Actually, I like to start with the ease of deployment,
okay.
Because that's the first thing I talked about. So I think in ease of deployment, there are at least 20 different features or product capabilities that Adtran brings to the table which help you. But let's talk about two of them here in this session. One is how do you set up your switch to do all the things I described to you earlier about voice fidelity? As to how do you set up your switch so that voice is prioritized in case there's network congestion, voice packets are not lost, you avoid the delay in the network, and you make sure that if there is packet loss, that the packet loss is not happening for voice over IP packets. All of that requires intricate programming skills to program the switch. If you have a programmable switch, I see a lot of customers going to the Best Buy and buying an unmanaged switch. If you have an unmanaged switch, you have a big problem at hand. Thankfully, all of Adtran switches are managed switches. What it means is you have the knobs that you can turn to make your switch the perfect switch for voice over IP. A lot of other companies claim to do that as well, but they leave the working of that in the hands of the network admin. So you got the switch, now it's your responsibility to use it to prioritize voice or to give the best voice experience. What we at Adtran have done is we looked at this problem and said, let's make it easy for our resellers, let's make it easy for our network admins, that when they get an Adtran switch, to quickly set up the switch for the voice over IP application. So we added a voice over IP setup wizard in our switches about 3 or 4 years ago after we saw what are the common things people run into and what are the common practices that should be exercised on a switch. So you go to a Adtran switch, you go to the web GUI, and you open the voice over IP setup wizard. There are two modes of operation, an automatic and manual. Either way, within 2 minutes or less, by clicking 1 or 2 buttons, you will configure the switch the best way possible to deliver voice over IP in the best way possible. So that's a good example of how we make the deployment easier for our customers. If you move on to the next one, next slide, this is a very unique application, and this is a very common problem. So if you get my drift, Michael, a common problem and a unique application. So let's talk about that. So a lot of voice over IP installs, actually up to 90% of all voice over IP installs, I will bet, are blocked because the network is not ready. When I say the network is not ready, is that the cable plant is not ready, or the cable guy has not come in and put new Cat5 wiring into that building or into that office space, and you have to wait for it. And while you're waiting for it, somebody else may come in and steal the deal from you, because anything which delays the sales cycle or the completion of the sales cycle is a risk that you have and we have in supporting you. That the customers might choose to go a different way. So when Adtran looked at this problem, we came up with a very unique solution, which nobody in the industry, in the switch industry, does it, which is we started supporting Ethernet over Cat3 wiring. So Cat3 wiring is the typical wiring you see with old digital handsets, or even your typical analog phone at home is done over a Cat3 wiring. Now Ethernet or standard space Ethernet never runs on Cat3 wiring. It requires 4 pairs of wires, and they have to be of a specific gauge, and that's the Cat5 wiring or Cat5 wiring or above. So when Adtran looked at this problem, we came up with a solution saying, how about we use the existing wiring in the building? So if you think about a heritage building, if you think about a hospital, if you think about a school, the rewiring cost of putting Cat5 cable in these buildings is much, much higher. So the deployment becomes much expensive or even not feasible in some cases. So what we at Adtran did is we designed a switch, which is the active read switch, which you see on the slide here, that it can either work over Cat3 wiring, which is unheard of, nobody else does that, and it can also work over Cat5 wiring. So you as a network admin or an installer or a reseller, when you go to install your voice over IP system, whether it's a hosted voice over IP or whether it's an on-site IP PBX, you can reuse the existing wiring the customer has. So that's very powerful. You have to let it sink in for a second or two, that you don't have to rewire the building. The biggest cost in any voice over IP deployment, if you factor in the biggest cost in terms of not only the cash outlay, but the time delay is coming from your cable setup. And all of that goes away with this active read switch. The way the switch works is you plug in your Cat3 wiring into the switch, and you use a dongle at the other end to convert from the Cat3 wiring standard that we are using and go back into a standard Ethernet. So as this drawing is showing, is we have Cat3 wiring or or Amphenol cables coming into the 1235P, which is an active read switch from Adtran. And then at the other end, where you have your IP phone, just before the IP phone, you have a media converter, which converts from the proprietary Cat3 standard back into a Cat5 Ethernet standard. So it's a huge, huge advantage that our resellers and our customers have when they use an active read switch for these kind of deployments. Moving on, I think we talked about some other things from a deployment and ease of management perspective. Is ProCloud is a good example of things that we have introduced in the last 2 years, and our resellers are loving it. And I'm seeing a lot of deployments going exclusively ProCloud. So what is ProCloud? So ProCloud is a cloud management system by Adtran, by which you can manage hundreds and thousands of switches at customer sites from a centralized location. So instead of you logging in to each switch independently to manage it, now you have a web login that you can get to from any computer in the world. If you're on your vacation or wherever you are, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can get on a website and you can manage all the switches that you have from a centralized location. And you don't have to log into each individual GUI of each individual switch to manage it. You get lots of widgets, dashboard, some automatic configuration tools, automatic backup tools that will allow you to manage your network better without you losing sleep over it. For example, with this ProCloud, for example, one thing you can quickly find out is what kind of devices are on your network across multiple locations, which device is consuming the most bandwidth, which device is down, which device has abnormal historical run rate of the bytes they are consuming or the bytes they are sending. So these are very powerful information that you get from the ProCloud. So I will encourage everybody to think about ProCloud from a deployment perspective. Is you have deployed the switches, now to manage them, you have a ProCloud solution, which is unique from Adtran again. We talked about some more aspects about ease of management, which will be troubleshooting. So we have made troubleshooting much, much easier for our switches. One example that we have is, there are multiple examples, but one example will be cable diagnostics. So our switches have this unique feature by which you can run a cable diagnostic. So if you have a loop or if you have a short in your cable, the switch will tell you that it is detecting a short or an open loop, and it will also approximate the distance at which we see this cable problem. So you as a network admin or you as a tech on site can quickly isolate the problem and then fix it. Again, one more example of how our switches are better for the voice over IP market. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but I think the team is getting the idea about we have thought about the common problems, we have addressed those common problems, and we do it in a faster, easier way by giving you a graphical user interface to go and manage it. So it doesn't require a lot of training on your techs who are going on site to do these things, or if doing it remotely through ProCloud, either or.
So that's really good, Samir. Now let's go into what we call the voice over features within our switches. Could you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, definitely. So the voice fidelity is our clubbing of the different features or technical specs in the product, which make those three things I talked to you about earlier, packet delay, packet loss, and jitter, go away, or drastically reduce in a customer land situation. So for example, one thing that you have to guarantee for voice over IP is that you always have a guaranteed bandwidth, a guaranteed path for voice packets to travel, and in case there is a congestion in the network, then voice packets are not dropped. So the way to do that is by using what we call as QoS markings on the packets. So every packet which is leaving the network or coming into the network is marked with a priority bit, and our switches automatically do it, which is we mark the incoming voice traffic with the highest priority, so that traffic is always guaranteed to go across the network, even in case of congestion. So that's one example of it. The other is a very simple thing, but even today, when I talk to resellers, or I talk to customers, or I go to customer sites, and I notice there's a very simple concept, which is in a lot of switches, but it's never used, is partitioning your network into VLANs. So you have a VLAN for voice and you have a VLAN for data. By doing this isolation, you are reducing the broadcast domains in the network and preventing your voice traffic to be hampered in any way or form by any of the traffic on the network. So it's a very simple feature, but we make it very, very easy to use. Goes back to our voice over IP wizard. So that's an example of it. The second thing is all our switches are non-blocking. So if you buy a switch from some other vendor, they will claim, oh, we got 24 gigabit ports on it, and we got 1 gig uplinks on it, and we are guaranteed you will never have any blocking. If you just think about the problem there, or the solution they're describing is that if you have got a gigabit switch and you only have 1 gig uplinks going back from the gigabit switch, this is bound to have congestion. So you have 24 lanes of gigabit traffic coming into the switch and only 1 or 2 lanes of 1 gigabit going out. You're going to bound to have traffic congestion in the network. So Adtran offers switches with complete non-blocking architecture. So what it means is that we have a path to the switch whereby no packet will ever have to be dropped because of congestion which is introduced by the switch design. So that doesn't happen. So that's an example of voice-aware feature. The other example I can talk about is, people don't think about this, but this is something important to think about, is security for voice-over IP traffic. When you and I are talking on the phone, I think you have an expectation that our conversation is private. So while voice-over IP has a lot of benefits, it also makes it easier to snoop onto somebody's voice call. Now there are ways and means to avoid it, and our switches offer those features. So we have features which reduce the chances of hacking your product. There are always best practices, and PCI compliant practices is a good resource to look at as to what are those practices you can have on our switches. But things like port security, things like not having a large broadcast domain are some ways by which you can secure your network, and we provide those features in our switches.
One of the big things that you brought up, Samir, is network downtime, or how do we make sure the network is up all the time?
Yes, and I think when I was talking about it earlier, Michael, I think I told you that of all the things, this will be my number one thing I will always put in front. And I'll tell you why that's very important, that a switch, when it goes down, is a lot of problem from a lot of people. You saw that IHS survey from earlier this year. It's a huge problem, and $80 billion worth of productivity or revenue is lost because of downtime in the network. So we have solved this problem in multiple ways. So first of all, our switches are designed for 5 nines reliability, and that comes from our telco heritage. So because we design products for the large tier 1 providers, and we know what it takes to make a product which is absolutely robust possible in the environment it goes to live in. So that's number one. Number two is our products also offer the capability of adding a separate power source. So why is power source important? Well, typically in the old digital phone systems, the phone system was powered by or the phones were powered by the old PBX, or that old digital PBX. When you go to voice over IP, the PBX is just software. So now who powers the phone? So now the phone is being powered by the switch through power over Ethernet. Well, that's great. Now what you want to do is make sure that the switch is always up and running, so that even in case of a power outage in the building, there's a secondary source coming into the PoE switch and your IP PBX to always keep those network devices always up and running. So we offer ways and means by which to offer power redundancy to the switches, so that even in case of a disaster scenario, even in case of a power outage, you have a ways and means to provide a secondary source to the switch to get the power from, which is important because people depend on 911, and you want to make sure that no matter what happens, there's a power source in the building for the phones, and we have features in our product to make it happen. That's one. The second thing I want to talk about is warranty and support. Again, from a network perspective, Adtran provides the best tech support possible in the industry today. We have a US-based tech support where anybody can call in to tech support and discuss their problem with us. We quickly resolve the problem and given the information to us. But we also have what we call as a lifetime warranty on our switches. So if you have a problem with our switches, there's a limited lifetime warranty on these switches, and we will honor that warranty. Not only we honor that warranty, we honor that warranty with the next business day replacement best effort, whereby if you have a problem with the switch and you have not bought a Pro Care contract, we will still try and help you, and we will try and ship to the best of our stocking situation a next business day replacement to you for a second switch. So those are some of the reasons we feel good about our products. They're robust products. They have ways and means to make them more to make them more robust in the network in case of power outages, and that's a big thing I want to take away for the people on the call.
That's definitely one thing which is very important, especially as our reseller partners are trying to sell and install our switches. We have a fairly large pro services team that is there to help you, whether it's in the network design or in the actual support when issues arise with any of our switches. And as Samir mentioned, we do offer best effort next business day replacement for our switches, but we also, for those who are want to come into a Pro Care contract,
which is guaranteed.
Yeah, we offer a guaranteed next business day, or for our premium Pro Care services, we offer even 4-hour
absolutely, yeah, and
replacements.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's one thing I want to hit upon people, is because there are some acts of nature which happen, and you have to safeguard yourself against those forces of nature, and having a reliable switch at hand is a step in the right direction, and then having a service contract on it is probably making it even more reliable.
Yeah.
From that point onwards. Yeah, I think the next slide is just a quick comparison of some of the competitors we see in this market and how we compare and contrast against them. By no means this is a complete list, but it just tells you about the things that we focus on that we think are important for our products in this market, and our resellers are benefited most by our product, as this slide will show you. One thing I think, Michael, that we should do is that we should send this team, or send all the listeners a quick reference guide of all of our switches. But this slide, what it talks about is, at a high level, I want the listeners today, the takeaway is that we got an end-to-end solution of switches, from fast Ethernet switches to gigabit switches, from layer 2 switches to layer 3 switches, from non-PoE switches to PoE switches, from Cat5 or Ethernet RJ45 jack-based switches to SFP or fiber switches with 1 gig uplinks or 10 gig uplinks. We got the entire variety of switches that you need for voice over IP installs, and they're backed by the Adtran guarantee, Adtran warranties, Adtran tech support, and if you have a need for a switch and voice over IP or Wi-Fi or even video is your application, Adtran switches are probably the best choices you have, and you will never go wrong with them. So that's something to think about from a complete portfolio perspective. I think I hit this point already, but let me give an example of our tech support. So all our tech support engineers are degreed engineers, so they have 4-year college degrees at least, and they go through a lot of training when they get on a call. And when you talk to them, they're all based here in the U.S. They sit alongside our design engineers. I, as a product manager, often get a chance to interact with them. Their comments, what they're seeing on a day-to-day basis, go into a feedback loop by which we improve our products continuously. And just because they are physically located in the same building, if we do see a problem, they have access to our design engineers with no delay at all, and we can address your problems quicker, faster, and better. So that's one example of it. And we talked about the limited lifetime warranty and advanced replacements already. So that's one thing our customers get at no extra cost from us, the limited lifetime warranty and next business day advanced replacements. One other thing which differentiates us from, again, a warranty and support perspective is, while other companies may charge you a maintenance contract to get you that next OS or get that next firmware load for the newer features or bug fixes, our policy today for these switches is they're available for you to download at no cost from our websites. So if you want to manage your customers and keep them updated on the newest, greatest code, that's available to you today from our website. And if you happen to use ProCloud, then that is done automatically. And if you're managing it for you, so we'll do it automatically for you. So whereby your customers are upgraded to the latest, greatest, or the appropriate firmware for their needs automatically by us in the background under the ProCloud Plus setting. That's on a case-by-case basis. But what the big takeaway is that we give you access to the best features at no additional cost to you all the time.
That's a good point. And ProCloud and the fact about our included software updates and upgrades. A good example of that is the ProCloud management itself, which was a software upgrade that was made available to all of our customers from switches that were prior to when we launched our ProCloud service to all the new switches.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe again, those are the kind of things sometimes we don't talk about enough. Back to your point about Michael, that we are an R&D company or engineering company. Let me give a anecdote on that for those listeners on the call. Everybody at Adtran, corporate engineers, managers, everybody is an engineer, and everybody has lived the life you guys go through when you are putting these products on a customer side. We can relate to you much more easily because we are that technical and we understand the problems you guys face in trying to use these products. So that's one advantage we have. But because of that advantage, sometimes we overlook talking about the great things we do. The example that Michael brought up is when we did offer ProCloud, it was not a service that we only offered to new customers. Every existing switch customer of ours was able to upgrade to the newer firmware and then put their switches under ProCloud management. That was a conscious effort on our part. It required a lot more work on our part to make that happen versus just choosing to go with the next generation of switches. But those are the kind of things we go and do for our customers. That's a good point, Michael. Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. So,
yeah,
just to summarize.
Yeah, so again, I've talked about a lot. I must have covered 9 or 10 features with you in ease of deployment and voice fidelity, in network uptime. Here's something which is think of it as a checklist, and these are 5 very important points you have to think about. Not only you think about, but make your customers think about it when they start thinking about voice over IP. So the minute you have a deal or a lead or a customer's interest in voice over IP, make sure they start thinking about their switching infrastructure at the same time. The LAN infrastructure cannot be an afterthought after they've made their decision to go to voice over IP. It has to be hand in hand. And things to make your customers think about are what we have listed here is make sure the LAN infrastructure has switch features like the ones we talked about today. Make sure their cabling is up to date and can do Cat5 and PoE over it. And if they cannot do Cat5, just know that we have Active Reach, which can do it over Cat3 as well. And my recommendation will be to always use a PoE switch when doing voice over IP, always, because it's easier to do a UPS backup or a second power source on a PoE switch versus trying to go to each IP phone and powering it locally and then worrying about how to power that IP phone locally, and not only that, but also to give it a UPS backup for each IP phone individually. So always go with PoE switch. And what I said earlier was consider the total cost of ownership. You may buy an unmanaged switch from Best Buy, Mr. Customer, but you will have problems that will be hard to troubleshoot down the road. The kind of problems I talked to you about, such as talking over syndrome, which happens due to packet delay, or you can only hear somebody's 4th or 5th word what they say, and that happens because of packet loss. Those are the kind of things which are really hard to manage or to correct in an unmanaged switch or a web managed switch. But in a fully managed switch like the Adtran switches are, you got ways and means to do it. We have made it even easier with the voice over IP setup wizard as an example. So those would be my key 5 or 6 takeaways for people on the call.
And just to emphasize the TCO aspect of it, when we looked at our switches and how they are deployed in a voice over IP environment, we looked at it as costs are there when you're installing it, costs are there while managing it, and costs are there while keeping the switch up and running, the network uptime piece of it. So when you talk to your customers about the switches that you need for your voice over IP deployment, TCO is a big aspect of it, and the switch that brings you that ability, which is it helps you install faster, management is easier, and also keeps your network up all the time, whether that's just the switch itself or the support services around it. That will help you build credibility with your customers and give you the reference for your next customer itself. So TCO is a very important aspect that we would like to emphasize with our switches.
I think we'd like to hand it over to our partners at VoIP Supply now.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Quinn, Marketing Specialist here at VoIP Supply. I just wanted to kind of touch base and talk to you quick kind of who we are, what we can offer, and how we can work with you guys in Adtran. We've been working with Adtran for a while. They're great partners. As you can see, they're very technically, they have a ton of knowledge, and they really know how to make sure that you're getting the right products for your situation. Here at VoIP Supply, we've been around since 2002. We have just around 40 employees. What's nice for us is we have multiple locations. We do have one on the East Coast, headquartered in Buffalo, New York. We do have a location on the West Coast, and we have a location in Canada too. So what's nice when you're shipping within the U.S., we can get same-day shipping, and we can really reduce your shipping rates and get it there, get your products to you really quickly. We understand when either if you're replacing products or something like that, you need them right away. So we want to make sure that we can go ahead and get that product shipped out to you same day. Also, we have a team of experts. Not only are the Adtran experts there at your disposal, but also we have a highly educated staff here that will be able to help you with any of your needs or anything like that. They are up to date on all new products, anything new coming out with Adtran, all the certain type of situations that Adtran offers. Our staff here is trained and ready to help you with any situation you have out there. Also, we're not just providing you guys hardware. We do have other different programs that we're offering. We do offer VoIP fulfillment in all of our locations. So what we can do is let you guys do what you're going to do, and we'll go ahead and if you're reselling these products, we can go ahead and we can stock it for you, we can package it for you, we can ship it for you. We can kind of take away all the grunt work and let you just kind of work on the VoIP side of things. So if you are reselling these products, if you are integrating these products, it's kind of a nice option to take care of it. You know that your products are always on hand. You know that you have a dedicated person here to take care of you, and you're going to get those products out as soon as possible. Also, we do have partner and affiliate programs, which kind of fall in line with the fulfillment programs. What the partner and affiliate programs do is allow you to earn commissions when you're reselling these products. So if you are integrating these products and installing these products and reselling them, we want to make sure that you're making commission too. So when you're working with us, you get acquainted with us, know that you're always going to be purchasing from us. We go ahead and we're going to track your sales and what products you're buying from us, and we'll go ahead and we'll give you a percentage back depending on what type of sales you're getting monthly, quarterly, and annually. Also, the affiliate program is for people to earn commissions that aren't really as technically sound as some of our customers are. So they will be out there. If you just want to start referring traffic to our site, if you just want to start referring customers to our sales team, we can go ahead and work with you and kind of turn into something that would be more of a way for you to earn some money too, when you don't need to be completely technically sound, and let our technical team take over that. So here's our contact info we have on here. We really want to be able to have you reach us in any way possible. When you have questions about Adtran products, when you want to purchase Adtran products, or any other type of products out there, you have questions about our programs that we offer, commissions, anything like that, you can reach us. Our best way to reach us is that our phone number is 1-800-398-VoIP. You can get into our sales team, our technical support team, our customer service team. You can kind of access them all right there, and they'll be on hand. That's available to you from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and give them a call. They'll be available to you right away. You can also access our website, voipsupply.com, browse through all our different products, browse through all the Adtran products, get information on the product descriptions, things like that. We have educational materials on the site. We're not just trying to push hardware. We also have areas for you to learn about VoIP and learn about switches and learn about all the advantages that you can gain from different products. Also on the site, we do have a chat there too. So if you just want to pop up, you have a quick technical question or maybe a pricing or a shipping question or something quick that you don't really want to get on the phone for, you can go ahead and use our chat feature in the bottom right-hand corner of your browser, and there'll be someone there to answer right away. Also, we have everything on social media. Feel free to try to be active on social media as much as possible, letting you know about different industry news, different things that VoIP Supply is doing, new features that Adtran's coming out with, new products that Adtran is coming out with. We try to keep that active on our social media avenues through LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. We also have our blog, the VoIP Insider. That's any industry up-to-date news. We talk about different things going on there. It's kind of the same idea, just as we're doing with social media, just with a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more description there. So I want to thank you guys again for kind of joining us today, learning about the new the different Adtran switches out there, what's going to be best for your situation. Feel free to contact us at any of these avenues here, and we'll be sure to help you out. And I can pass it back over to Adtran now here.
So thank you everyone for attending today's session, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
VoIP Supply is a leading internet retailer of voice over IP hardware with over 125,000 customers worldwide. Click subscribe to stay up to date on the latest from VoIP Supply in VoIP technology. Thanks for watching.